Hey everybody, Kevin here once again from My Song of the Day Rock 2000 to Today YouTube channel, and today we are going to be doing a band review on the band Pierce the Veil. Alrighty, so before we go and dive into this band review, a little synopsis of how this review is gonna go. First, I'm gonna go through my history with the band, so how I found out about them, how I started listening to them, and where they stand with me today. Following that, I'm gonna go in through each album from first to last, talking stylistically how the music sounds, plus going into a little bit more about certain songs as we go along the way. Third, I'm going to give you my favorite aspect about the band and why, along with my least favorite aspect about the band and why. Fourth, I'm going to tell you what my favorite song is and, of course, give you the reasoning behind that. Lastly, I'm going to rate the band on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being the absolute worst, 10 being the best, and I'll tell you why. Don't worry about that. So enough with that, let's get on into it. Okay, so my personal history of the band goes something like this. Back in the mid-2010s when I was in college, I was watching a lot of music videos on YouTube, and Pierce the Veil's King for a Day featuring Kellin Quinn always popped up in my suggested videos. I never gave it the time of day, I never watched it, but I can still picture that video thumbnail in my head. It's got Kellin Quinn and Vic Fuentes walking into that bank, and I can still picture it. It's never going to get out of my head. Let's fast forward a couple of years, end of 2017, early 2018, when I was really listening to Sleeping with Sirens a whole lot here, and it came up again, and I thought, wait, this is Kellin Quinn in it, I have to give this a listen and see what happens. And let me tell you, I like the song and I love the music video. That Robbing the Bank music video is something that is completely awesome. I'm a big fan of it, and then when it comes to the song, I love the You're Not Gonna Keep Me Down, that there may be people above you that are really influencing you, and what would be the reverse of that? It gives you that angst to kind of get out of that position. Very similar like Re-Education Through Labor by Rise Against did. You listen to the guitar, it's got that nice fast-paced like metalcore grindcore sound. The drums fast-paced. The raspy vocals of Vic Fuentes really play well in this song, and the addition of Kellin Quinn to hit those high notes is something that is awesome. As the year went on, I listened to Collide with the Sky, that album, a lot. I really didn't get much into the other albums, but then when I wanted to do this video review, I thought, yeah, we're going to go heavily into those three and see what happens. So, here we go. So when Pierce the Veil came out with their first album, A Flair for the Dramatic, back in 2007, I thought this album was kind of a all over the place, scatterbrain, not really sure where it wanted to be album, and I think it was because the band was really trying to find their style at the time, so they're going to experiment a whole lot with different sounds. There are some songs that are more emo, there are some songs that are more pop punk-like, there are some songs that are more post-hardcore, and some that are more metalcore, and it kind of gets you lost a little bit. But the one thing that's consistent throughout all these songs is they're all molded around the sound of Vic Fuentes' vocals. When it's going more emo, his vocals really bring that out. When it's going more pop-punk, his vocals can really bring that out as well. It's something that the band really found out throughout this album. And let's go into a couple of songs here. If we listen to The Cheap Bouquet, it's really cool because that guitar intro really pulls you into the song. You're like, okay, I want to listen to this. And the band has a metalcore sound to it. And what's really interesting about it is when Vic Fuentes sings his vocals, he does have a little bit of a metalcore sound in his vocals in the beginning, but then he switches to post-hardcore during the song, and it really meshes well. It's a good mixture, and I'm a fan of it. She Sings in the Morning is the exact same thing, except the script is flipped. The band is more post-hardcore sounding, and Vic Fuentes has more metalcore sounding vocals. It's a really weird combination, but it works for this band. I am not lying. This is a fantastic move by this band because it really started to bring them into their own style. I did like the album because it was kind of all over the place. I also disliked it for the exact same reason, so it's kind of, a paradigm catch-22 kind of thing. However, I think it was a good first album by the band, and 3 years later, this is what happened. The band would follow up A Flair for the Dramatic with Selfish Machines, which I think is the album where they got a real good foothold on what they were going to do and what their sound was going to be. They went with that full grindcore sound here, where the instrumentation has elements of punk rock and metal in it, and the vocals, where you can get a vocalist that has kind of that scream that can really be used, but also is very good at using that high-pitched vocal sound that he naturally possesses. When it comes to Pierce the Veil, Vic Fuentes really possesses that. If you want another comparison, who better to compare them to than Sleeping with Sirens with Kellen Quinn, who have done the very same thing back in 2010 with their debut album, which is kind of interesting for me to bring up that comparison. I'll get into more of that comparison as we go on here. But if you listen to a lot of their songs, they do have that grindcore core basically throughout all of their songs. One thing that varies is the pace. Sometimes they go faster, sometimes they go slower, and I think it really works well here, and it really plays to Vic's strength as a vocalist. Taking 2 songs from this album to really listen to, Bulletproof Love is one of the first ones because it kind of has that slower pace when you're looking at a grindcore sound, and talking more about love and kind of losing it and kind of just essentially giving up at some point. But what ends up happening is Vic Fuentes' high-pitched vocals are really brought out here very well. If we listen to Caraphernalia, I probably butchered that, but if it's Caraphernalia, whatever, I think that's the best song on this album because the band uses their fast pace in the beginning. They use that metalcore sound, and Vic Fuentes can hit those verses with that higher pitch voice and that chorus at the end with the higher pitch voice, but then they bring in some screams right in the first part of the chorus, and I think it works fantastic in this one. I've been listening to the song consistently since I've been doing this video and even a little bit beforehand, and I love it. So I think it's the best song on the album. And I think, again, Selfish Machines is the album where Pierce the Veil really began to find their sound. And 2 years later, whoa. So 2 years after Selfish Machines in 2012, the band released Collide with the Sky, which is commercially and from a fan standpoint, their best and most successful album, and in my opinion is the same way. The band really dedicated themselves to that grindcore sound in the first half of the album, which is fantastic. Granted, they do experiment a little bit more in the second half of the album, but I think that experimentation is warranted because you don't want to stay too stale, but you still want to stay with your core, and that grindcore sound is something that they doubled down on again at the beginning half, and it really worked well here. Talking about the instrumentation and the vocals, I think there's 3 songs we have to talk about. A Match in the Water is the one where they really kind of go a lot harder with those instrumentation. They go a little bit more metalcore-ish, and punk rock-ish actually, which works well here. And Vic Fuentes' voice is a little bit deeper on this track, and it's actually pleasant to hear. It is something that's really cool. I've been listening to the song a lot as well, and I can still think about it in my head like, make me a promise here tonight. And then also hear the kind of some of the screaming that he does in that one. I'm a fan of it. Let's go to Bulls in the Bronx next because they do play with that metalcore, grindcore sound in the beginning, but there's a part in there where they have this string breakdown, which, granted, it threw me off at first, but I thought, whoa, they're actually experimenting with some stuff and seeing where their sound can take them while still staying true to their sound. I thought it was a good move. But of course, if you're going to look at this album and you're going to look at a song from this album, you've got to look at King for a Day. Because when you hear the instrumentation, it's very grindcore in the beginning because you can hear Kellen and Vic scream. And then when you get to the verse, and not the verse, when you get to the chorus actually, the chorus, oh, wow. Because you hear that high-pitched sound from Kellen, which I'm so glad they put Kellen Quinn on this track because I don't think Vic can hit as high of notes as Kellen can, but it really amplifies this. And then when you hear Vic sing in the chorus, it kind of also brings it out a little bit more because he gets those higher-pitched vocals, but doesn't get as high as Kellen's. Not only that, but this is a song that has one hell of a message behind it. I mentioned it earlier, but when you really listen to it, it just gets in your core and you just are freaking out like this is a great song. It is one hell of a song. Again, let's go back to Collide with the Sky as a whole. It is their best album. I was hoping for a great follow-up to it when they came out with their next album in 2016. But the most recent release by Pierce the Veil is Misadventures, the album that came out in 2016. Now, granted, Vic has put out on Twitter that the band is working on new music in 2018 for maybe a 2019 release, maybe early 2020. But at the time I'm shooting this video, it hasn't come out yet. There are no singles out for it, so this is what we're working off of. When I listen to Misadventures, whoa, is it a bit different? Is it different, my lord? They kind of went a lot more pop-punk on this album than they did with that grindcore sound from Collide with the Sky and Selfish Machines. And I was a little thrown off by it. There are songs in there when you listen to them, you're thinking this song might have been influenced by Paramore. This one is sounding a lot like My Chemical Romance, and this one sounds like it could have come from Mayday Parade. And it's very interesting to hear, and I am just a little bit thrown back by it because for a band that got really into that grindcore sound and really hit it big with Collide with the Sky and King for a Day, why would you necessarily go a whole album that goes really away from it? Granted, there are songs that have that grindcore aspect in there, like Dive In and Texas Is Forever, because those songs do have that pop-punk mentality in there, but they do have a little bit of that grindcore sound that Pierce the Veil is known for, and Vic's vocals, I think, are really good on Dive In. I'm a big fan of it. If we listen to Circles, holy pop-punk there, Batman. That one is a straight pop-punk song that I was not expecting from Pierce the Veil. When I listened, I thought, wait, this is a pop-punk song by Pierce the Veil in the 2010s? What is this? I was a little freaked out by it. I'm not the biggest fan of that song, even though, from what I've seen, that is the most popular song off the record. It really kind of threw me off. One thing that I really didn't like, though, was it just didn't mesh well with what they used to do. And by that, I mean that the sound of the instrumentation and the melodies that were put together did not mesh as well with Vic's vocals as it had on the previous 3 albums. When they really did that, man, could they create some magic. But this one felt like it just felt flat a little bit. Now, again, I'm not bashing the album for being more experimental because, again, you got to experiment to kind of keep it fresh and stay with your roots as well, so kind of branch out from where your roots are because you don't want to be doing a grindcore thing and all of a sudden put out a jazz album because what the hell, that makes no sense. However, this one just seemed like a little bit of a misstep for the band, and I hope they kind of get back more towards that grindcore sound when we jump into their next album, hopefully sometime in 2019, maybe early 2020, but then again, we'll see. So when it comes to my favorite part about the band, what is it? This is what it is. It is Vic Fuentes' vocals and how the band builds their songs around his vocals. When they go with that pop-punk sound like they did in Misadventures, he kind of brings a little bit of a lower voice than he normally has, and it just doesn't mesh as well as some of the other times. If they go more emo, he does have a flair for the melodramatic and can really get that emotionally driven sound out of his vocals. That when you hear it, it actually really gets into you deep. And you're like thinking, well, this is interesting. When they go for that grindcore sound, he can get really into it with the screams. And he can also hit those high-pitched vocals. Again, if you want perfect examples of that, for more of the screaming style, let's go to King for a Day. Because when you hear those high-pitched vocals, of course they're going to be Kellen Quinn's. When you hear the high-pitched vocals on Paraphernalia, that is Vic Fuentes, and I think it is fantastic, and I really like how the band builds that sound around his vocal range and what it can produce. So my least favorite part about the band is the move to being more a pop-punk band with that Misadventures album that came out in 2016. The biggest issue I have here is because I just didn't think that it was the best move for the band. I just don't think that when they create that pop-punk sound instrumentally, that Vic Fuentes' voice is very influential. It kind of clashes with it when he goes that lower tone. If they want more emo with that melodramatic Vic Fuentes voice, and when they go grindcore, holy hell does it actually work, and holy hell does it make great music. Something similar happened to their friend band and their closest comparison, Sleeping with Sirens, with Gossip in 2017. I know I did a band review on Sleeping with Sirens earlier, and that was my least favorite part about them as well. It was just very interesting to also see the comparison between these two. I mean, wow. That's a pretty good comparison. But then again, in closing with that move to pop-punk, I didn't think it was the best move for the band at the time, and it just didn't sit well with me. Alright, so what's my favorite song by Pierce the Veil? And as much as I want to go with Paraphernalia, because I am really listening to that song right now, I am big on it, I have to go with the one that's been the most consistent and most likely for me to listen to, and that's going to be King for a Day, guys. When I listen to that song, the instrumentation in the verses is very metalcore sounding, and even in part of the chorus, but when you get to most of the chorus, it's more slower post-hardcore punk rock, which brings out that grindcore sound. And those screams by Vic Fuentes in the verses really do damage here. And wow, was it a fantastic move to bring in Kellen Quinn to hit those high-pitched vocals, because I don't think Vic can hit the same amount of vocal range that Kellen can. And that mixture just to bring him in and to really hit that high-pitched vocals in the chorus or in the beginning part of the chorus. Woo! And in the end of the chorus, too. I mean, I just go, woo! That is one hell of a move, and it makes for one hell of a song. It might be the biggest grindcore song of the 2010s, probably will go down as that, and I'm incredibly happy about that. Okay, now time for my band rating, and I give Pierce the Veil a 7 out of 10. The band gets a 7 out of 10, which is one of our lower ratings that we've done to this point. They're not as low as our lowest rating, which was 10 Years, which got a 6 out of 10, and clearly not as high as what we did with Linkin Park, which got a 9 out of 10. However, with the comparison to Sleeping with Sirens, this basically runs right in line with them. Pierce the Veil gets 7 out of 10, so did Sleeping with Sirens. So Pierce the Veil isn't lower on this list because of the band's mixture when it comes to Vic's vocal range. What they do with that when they go more pop punk at times, when they go more emo, and when they go really grindcore, that instrumentation is really focused around his vocal range. Not so much when they do pop punk, more so when they do that emo sound and that grindcore sound. It is something that really works well here, and I know I said it earlier, but that is clearly the best part about the band. Why the band isn't rated higher though is because they do pop punk, they do really good emo, they do really good grindcore, but it doesn't seem like they're really great at anything. It seems like they're really good, but just not great, and the jack of all trades kind of just doesn't let me love them as much as I should. One of the other reasons, and I have to knock King for a Day for this a little bit, even though I love the fact that Kellin Quinn is on the soundtrack, it's because this is Pierce the Veil's most important and best song. And one of the reasons for that is because of Kellin Quinn's vocals. When that happens, I'm hard-pressed to put them above that. But the fact of the matter is, when you look at it, Sleeping with Sirens and Pierce the Veil are so similar that it's amazing that when I looked at both of them, they literally ran the same path. That's actually some foreshadowing for you folks in a couple of weeks when I release this video, so haha. But that's my rating, and that's my reason why. Alright, that's it for me. Thank you for watching the My Song of the Day Rock 2000 to Today band review on the band Pierce the Veil. If you think we did good, give us a like. If you think we did bad, give us a dislike. If you want to rip on me or tell me I did a great job, do that in the comments section below, and we'll talk. And if you want to stay up to date with our videos when we release them every single Wednesday, or if we do a special one, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell icon, because then you'll make sure to be notified every time we release a video. Also, if you guys are not following us on social media, oh my lord, what are you doing? I'm putting out killer content on those. So if you're not following us on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, go over to our pages. The links are in the description below. Just click on them, go follow us, go enjoy our content. It's awesome. Last and most importantly, if you have an Amazon Echo, Amazon Alexa, whatever you want to call it, and you are not subscribed to the My Song of the Day Rock 2000 Day Alexa skill, what are you actually doing? Every single day you get a brand new song. You get a new rock song. Could be metalcore, could be grindcore, could be hard rock, could be punk rock, could be alt rock. I mean, pop punk on Thursdays. It could be anything. It's going to bring back some nostalgia and let you know of some really good music that just came out, and hopefully soon we'll be letting you know of music that's coming your way in the future. So if you don't have it added, what you can do is two things. Go on your smartphone and click the link in the description below. It'll open up the app. All you have to do is hit Enable Skill. Or you can say, hey Alexa, enable My Song of the Day Rock 2000 to Today Alexa skill. And that's all you have to do. And if you want to listen to the song, say, hey Alexa, play My Song of the Day. And the song will play in its whole entirety, along with a 5-second intro by myself. And when it's over, it's over. You want to listen to it again? Go for it. I keep the song in there for 24 hours, and then every day we flip them out, and you get a brand new one. It's awesome. It's free. Go add it to your skill set. Be awesome. Thank you, guys. And that's going to be it for me. This is Kevin from My Song of the Day Rock 2000 Day. Of course, I got to end with this. See ya!